The market of Calora City was always alive with sound, color, and strange smells. Humans and aliens walked side by side, trading food, tools, and secrets. For Ethan, a young human man new to the colony, it was a place of wonder. He had come here only a few months ago, hoping to find work and adventure. Every corner of the alien market promised something new, something unknown. But this day would change his life forever. Ethan moved through the crowd, his eyes caught by bright fabrics, glowing crystals, and creatures in cages. He was so focused on everything around him that he did not notice the figure ahead. A tall alien woman stood by a stall, her scales glimmering under the sunlight. She was not like the others. Her posture was proud, her eyes sharp, her long tail swaying slowly behind her. The aliens gave her space, whispering her name with both respect and fear. Ethan tried to pass by, holding a small bag of fruit he had just bought. But in the press of bodies, someone pushed him forward. His hand shot out to balance himself. And in that single careless moment, he touched her tail. The world seemed to stop. Every sound in the market died. The traders froze, their mouths open, their eyes wide in shock. Even the alien vendors who had been shouting loudly fell silent. Only the beating of Ethan's heart echoed in his ears. The alien woman turned slowly, her golden eyes locking onto his face. Her expression was unreadable, neither anger nor mercy. Her tail twitched where his hand had brushed it, as if it remembered his touch. Gasps rose from the crowd. A child whispered, "He touched her tail. He is doomed." Ethan felt his throat dry, his legs weak. He did not know the meaning of what he had done, but he knew it was bad, very bad. A group of aliens stepped back as though he carried a deadly disease. One merchant muttered, "No one touches a warrior's tail and lives." Another hissed, "Foolish human, he does not know the law." The woman's hand moved, faster than his eyes could follow. She seized him by the wrist with a grip of iron. Ethan winced, his fruit bag dropping to the ground, spilling bright red spheres across the dusty street. He tried to pull free, but her strength was far beyond human. She leaned close, her voice low and sharp. "Do you understand what you have done?" I didn't mean," Ethan stammered, his words cut short by her glare. The people around them backed away, forming a wide circle. Some whispered prayers, others waited eagerly for blood. Ethan's mind raced. He had come here only to trade fruit, and now death stood before him. The alien woman tilted her head, studying him. Her gaze was intense, almost searching. Instead of striking him down as he feared, she did something no one expected. She pulled him closer, her claws digging lightly into his skin. Then she said in a voice that carried through the silent market, "You are mine now." The crowd erupted. Shouts and cries filled the air. Some cursed, some laughed in disbelief, others gasped in horror. Ethan stared at her, not understanding. What do you mean, yours?" But she did not answer. She dragged him forward, her tail lashing behind her like a whip. The crowd parted quickly, no one daring to block her path. Ethan stumbled, trying to keep up, his heart pounding in fear. Every step took him further from safety, deeper into a world he could not understand. He looked back once, seeing the crowd watching, whispering, judging. Some pointed at him, shaking their heads. Others watched with cold amusement. Ethan realized then that he was no longer just a stranger in their city. He had become something far worse, an outsider who had broken a sacred rule. The alien woman's grip tightened, pulling him into the shadowed alleys beyond the market. Ethan's breath quickened, his mind screamed at him to run. But her hold was unbreakable, and her pace unstoppable. He could only stumble after her, his fear rising with each step. Finally, when they were away from the eyes of the crowd, she stopped. Ethan tried to pull away again, but she turned sharply, pinning him with her stare. Her golden eyes burned with something he had never seen before. Fury, yes, but also something else, something deeper. "You touched my tail," she said, her voice a whisper now, heavy with meaning. "By our law, that act binds you to me, until death." Ethan's heart almost stopped. He had no words, no understanding. He only knew one thing. His life was no longer his own. The accident had dragged him into a world he never imagined. And there was no going back. Ethan's heart pounded as the alien woman dragged him deeper into the twisting alleys. Her grip was strong, unbreakable. Her claws pressing against his skin just enough to remind him she was in control. Shadows stretched across the narrow path, hiding strange symbols carved into the walls. The market noise faded behind them until all he could hear was the sound of her footsteps and his own uneven breath. Finally, she stopped, spinning him around so quickly that he stumbled against the wall. Her golden eyes glared into his, glowing faintly in the dim light. "You touched my tail," she said again, her voice sharp like a blade. "Do you understand the weight of that?" Ethan shook his head, his throat dry. "I didn't know, I swear. I didn't mean anything by it," he stammered. Her tail lashed behind her, striking the stone with a crack that made him flinch. "In my people's law, a tail is sacred," she hissed. "Only chosen partners are allowed that touch, and once it happens, there is no escape." Ethan froze, her words sinking into his mind. Chosen partners? No escape? This had to be some kind of cruel joke. But her serious stare told him otherwise. Every inch of her body radiated danger and power. Before he could answer, a sound echoed down the alley. Voices. Other aliens were following. The woman's eyes narrowed, her ears twitching. She pressed him back against the wall, close enough that he could feel her breath on his face. "Listen, human," she whispered. "The crowd will not forgive you, they will want blood." The footsteps grew louder, and a group of armored aliens appeared, blocking the path. They carried blades and spears, their eyes burning with fury. One of them pointed at Ethan, spitting on the ground. "There he is, the human fool who touched her tail." Ethan's stomach twisted in fear. The leader of the group sneered. "Give him to us, Zara," he demanded. "The law demands punishment." Zara, that must be her name, Ethan thought. She straightened, her hand still gripping Ethan's arm like a shackle. Her voice rang out with authority. "No, he is mine, by the binding law of the tail." The aliens gasped, some in disbelief, some in anger. "You cannot claim a human," one shouted. "The bond is only for our kind," another snarled. But Zara stood firm, her tail curling protectively around Ethan's legs. "It is done," she declared, her golden eyes flashing. "None of you can break it." The warriors hesitated, muttering among themselves. Finally, their leader growled, "Then his fate is sealed. If you keep him, you will be cast out with him." The group turned and disappeared back into the shadows, their threats echoing in the air. Ethan sagged against the wall, struggling to catch his breath. What just happened?" he whispered. Zara released his arm, but her eyes stayed locked on him. "You are bound to me now," she said firmly. "Our law is clear. Your life is tied to mine." Ethan shook his head, panic rising inside him. "This is insane. I don't belong to anyone. I didn't even know your rules." Her gaze softened slightly, though her posture stayed tense. "Perhaps not, but ignorance does not change the bond," she said quietly. "Others will hunt you now, not just for breaking the law, but because of what this bond means." Ethan's voice cracked. "What does it mean?" Her silence was heavier than words. Finally, she turned away, her tail swaying slowly. "It means your life will never be the same," she whispered, "and mine will never be mine alone again." For a moment, neither spoke. The alien warrior who should have killed him had instead protected him. And now, he realized, she had tied herself to his fate as well. Suddenly, she grabbed his arm again and pulled him out of the alley. "Where are we going?" he asked, stumbling to keep up. "Someplace safe," she answered, "before they return." As they moved through the winding streets, Ethan noticed how people stared at them. Some with fear, others with hatred. Whispers followed them like shadows. Bonded, cursed, doomed. Ethan clenched his fists, feeling trapped in a nightmare. He wanted to run, to wake up from this, but something deep inside told him there was no running. Zara led him to a hidden chamber carved into the cliffs outside the city. Inside, the air was cool, the walls glowing faintly with alien markings. She finally released him, letting him collapse onto a stone bench. Her eyes studied him carefully, as if weighing his worth. "You must understand, human," she said slowly. "Your mistake has placed you at the center of a storm." Ethan rubbed his face, trying to steady his thoughts. "What storm? Why me? I don't even know you." Her tail flicked once, her voice low and dangerous. "You don't need to know me," she replied, "but you must survive with me, or you will not live long." Ethan swallowed hard, staring at her glowing eyes in the dim chamber. A strange chill ran through him. Fear, yes, but something else too. This alien woman had dragged him into danger, yet she was also the only one standing between him and death. The warning was clear. His life was no longer his own, and the storm she spoke of was already closing in. The hidden chamber was silent except for the faint dripping of water. Ethan sat on the cold stone bench, his mind spinning. Only hours ago, he had been just another trader in the market. Now, he was bound to a warrior alien whose name he barely knew. Zara stood near the wall, her posture straight, her tail curling and uncurling behind her. Her golden eyes never left him. Ethan could feel the weight of her stare pressing on him. It was like she was waiting for something he didn't understand. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "You keep saying I'm bound to you, but what does that mean? Why are they so afraid of it?" Zara tilted her head, her scales glinting faintly in the glowing light of the chamber. "Our tales carry more than flesh and bone," she said quietly. "They carry our spirit, our strength, our lineage. When someone touches it, the bond is sealed, a link between us is formed." Ethan blinked, trying to process her words. Link? You mean like marriage?" he asked cautiously. Zara's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, not quite a frown. "To us, it is even deeper than marriage," she replied. "It is life itself, the strongest tie our kind can form." Ethan's chest tightened. He hadn't asked for this, hadn't even known it was possible. And yet, every time she looked at him, he felt something stir inside. Like a whisper in his thoughts, faint but real. It wasn't his imagination. He could sense her mood, the tension in her heart. He shook his head, standing up. "This is crazy. I'm human. I don't belong to your laws. I don't want this bond." His voice echoed through the chamber, but Zara did not flinch. Instead, she stepped closer, her tail brushing the floor softly. "You think you can reject it?" she asked, her voice low and steady. "Try." Ethan froze as her hand pressed against his chest, right over his heart. Suddenly, a shock of warmth shot through him. Memories not his own flickered in his mind. Images of alien battles, the cries of warriors, the pride of her clan. He stumbled back, gasping for breath. What was that? Zara's golden eyes glowed brighter. "The bond," she said firmly. "It is already inside you, human. You cannot run from it." Ethan's knees felt weak. He dropped back onto the bench, his hands shaking. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered, almost to himself. Zara studied him for a long moment before speaking again. "Neither did I," she admitted softly. "But fate has tied us, and we must walk this path together, whether we like it or not." For the first time, Ethan saw something different in her eyes. Not just strength, not just anger, but weariness, and maybe even fear. She was a warrior, feared by her people. Yet this bond tied her fate to a fragile human stranger. They were both trapped, caught in something bigger than either of them. The silence between them grew heavy again. Then, a distant horn echoed through the night air, carried into the chamber by hidden tunnels. Zara's body stiffened, her tail snapping upright. "They are coming," she said quickly. "The council will not rest until they decide what to do with you." Ethan's stomach twisted. What will they do? Her jaw tightened. "Some will demand your death, others will demand mine," she said. "They fear the bond because it has not happened in centuries. Not with a human, never with an outsider." Ethan swallowed hard. "So what do we do?" Zara turned to him, her golden eyes blazing with determination. We prove them wrong. He frowned, confused. How? She stepped closer, her presence overwhelming, her voice steady. You must accept the bond, she said, not run from it. Ethan's heart raced. Accept it? He barely understood it, and yet the thought of rejecting her seemed dangerous, maybe even deadly. But deep down, another feeling stirred, something he couldn't explain. When she had touched his chest, he had felt her strength flow into him, and a strange thought whispered inside. Together, we are stronger. Before he could speak, Zara suddenly stumbled, clutching her side. Ethan rushed forward, instinct taking over. Hey, what's wrong? Her breath came heavy, her scales dimming slightly. The bond is incomplete, she admitted. If you deny it for too long, it weakens us both. Ethan froze. His refusal wasn't just hurting him. It was hurting her. And despite everything, despite the fear and the chaos, he didn't want to see her fall. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder, his voice quiet but firm. Then teach me, Zara. Tell me what I have to do. Her eyes widened, her breath catching. For the first time, her fierce mask cracked, and she looked almost vulnerable. You would accept it? She asked softly, as if she couldn't believe it. Ethan nodded, though his heart was pounding. I don't understand it yet, but if it means surviving, and if it means saving you, then yes. The chamber grew warmer, the air humming with unseen energy. Zara reached out, her tail curling lightly around his leg. A rush of heat surged through them both, binding their hearts, their minds, their strength. Ethan gasped, feeling her emotions flood into him. Courage, pain, pride, and something softer hidden deep within. Zara shivered, her claws trembling slightly as if the bond was almost too much to bear. And in that moment, they both knew. The bond was real, unbreakable, and it had only just begun. The bond had awakened something inside Ethan. He could still feel it, a faint thrum in his chest, a strange heat in his blood. It connected him to Zara in ways he couldn't explain. When she breathed, he almost felt her breath in his lungs. When she hurt, his heart tightened with her pain. But their fragile connection had no time to settle, because the danger outside the chamber grew louder every moment. The following day, the council summoned them. Zara led Ethan through the city, her tail wrapped protectively around his arm. Everywhere they walked, eyes followed them. Some filled with fear, others with rage. Whispers chased them like shadows. Bonded with a human, cursed, unnatural. Ethan kept his head down. He wanted to vanish into the crowd, but Zara walked with her head high, daring anyone to speak against her. Her pride gave him strength, even as his stomach churned. The council hall was carved into the side of a massive cliff. Inside, glowing crystals lit the room, throwing strange reflections across the stone walls. Elders sat in a circle, their scaled faces stern and cold. The largest elder, with silver markings across his brow, stood to speak. Zara of the golden tail, he said, his voice deep and powerful. You have broken our law, or allowed it to be broken. Ethan flinched at the words. But Zara did not. She raised her chin and answered firmly. The bond was made. It cannot be undone, not even by you. The council murmured angrily. One elder slammed her claw against the stone table. A bond with a human? Impossible. Dangerous. It weakens us all. Another snarled, pointing at Ethan. Kill him now, and the bond will die with him. Ethan's chest tightened, but before he could speak, Zara stepped forward. If he dies, I die, she said sharply, her golden eyes blazing. You would kill your own warrior, your strongest protector, just to erase what has been written by fate. The council fell into tense silence. The silver-marked elder leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Then let the bond be tested, he growled. If this human is truly bound to you, he must prove himself worthy. Ethan's blood ran cold. Worthy? How? He asked cautiously. The elder's thin smile revealed sharp teeth. By trial of combat. The hall erupted in shouts, some in agreement, others in outrage. Zara's tail lashed in anger. "No! He is not trained for this," she snapped. But the elder only smirked. "Then the bond will reveal his strength, or reveal his weakness." Guards pulled Ethan into the center of the chamber. A circle of stone was cleared, lit by the eerie glow of crystals. Zara's claws clenched at her side, but she was forced to stand back. The trial was his alone. A challenger stepped forward, a young alien warrior with scaled armor and a heavy spear. He sneered at Ethan, towering over him. "This is the human? This fragile thing dares to bond with one of us." The crowd laughed, cruel and sharp. Ethan's throat went dry, his hands trembling. He had no weapon, no training, nothing. The elder's voice boomed. "Begin." The warrior lunged, his spear cutting the air. Ethan dodged clumsily, nearly tripping over his own feet. The crowd roared with laughter. The spear slashed again, grazing Ethan's arm, drawing blood. He gasped in pain, stumbling back. But then, it happened. The bond pulsed inside him like fire. He could feel Zara's rage at his injury, feel her strength surge through him. His heartbeat matched hers, his vision sharpened. It was as if her warrior instincts whispered into his mind, guiding his body. The spear came again. This time Ethan moved faster, sidestepping at the last second. The warrior stumbled, surprised. Ethan grabbed a fallen staff from the ground, gripping it tightly. The crowd hushed, watching with new interest. The fight turned fierce. Ethan was no master, but every strike he blocked, every dodge he made, carried a hint of Zara's spirit. When the warrior tried to corner him, Ethan's body moved almost before he thought. The bond carried him, flowing like a second heartbeat. Finally, the warrior lunged recklessly. Ethan twisted aside, using the staff to strike the back of his knees. The alien crashed to the ground, his spear clattering away. Ethan stood over him, staff raised, breathing hard. The crowd gasped. The silver-marked elder rose slowly, his eyes narrowing. "Enough," he said, his voice low but clear. The challenger crawled away, humiliated. Ethan dropped the staff, his chest heaving, his arm bleeding but his spirit burning with fire. Zara rushed forward, ignoring the council's stares. She caught him before he fell, her claws gentle against his skin. "You fought well," she whispered, pride shining in her eyes. Ethan met her gaze, breathless. "I only fought because of you," he admitted softly. For the first time, her expression softened, a flicker of warmth breaking through her fierce mask. The elder's voice thundered again. "The human lives," he declared reluctantly. "But this bond is dangerous. It will draw enemies, and not just from within our walls." Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. Enemies? From where? Zara's jaw tightened, her tail curling protectively around him. She knew the elder spoke truth. The bond had marked them both, and the greatest conflict had only just begun. Night fell heavy over Kalora. The city that had mocked and judged Ethan during the day was now quiet, but not peaceful. Shadows stretched across the stone streets, and the glowing crystals of the council hall dimmed one by one. Ethan sat inside Zara's chamber, his wounded arm wrapped in strange herbs that burned slightly against his skin. He could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of the council, the sneers of the crowd, and the spear that had almost killed him. Zara moved silently around the room, her golden eyes glowing in the dark. Her tail swayed slowly, almost protectively, as if it sensed his unease. Finally, she sat across from him, her voice low. "You fought well today," she said, "better than I expected from a human." Ethan gave a tired laugh. "I almost died," he muttered. "That's not what I call fighting well." But Zara shook her head. "You survived," she corrected. "And more, the bond revealed itself." Ethan looked at her, puzzled. "The bond?" She leaned forward, her claws resting lightly on her knees. "You felt it, didn't you? The way your body moved, the way you knew where the spear would strike before it came." Ethan swallowed, remembering the strange fire that had filled him in the fight. Yes, he admitted, but I thought I was imagining it. Zara's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping lower. It was not imagination. Human, the bond is power, and it woke inside you. He stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. Power? You mean, I borrowed your strength? Her tail flicked against the floor. Not borrowed, she said firmly. Shared. Your spirit touched mine, and together we became something more. Ethan's chest tightened. It sounded impossible, yet he could not deny what he had felt. For the first time in his life, he had moved like a warrior. Not because of training, but because of her, and because of the bond that tied them together. Before he could reply, a sound outside the chamber froze them both. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, too many of them. Zara's tail snapped upright, her eyes flashing in warning. They are here, she whispered. Ethan's stomach dropped. Who? Assassins, she answered, her voice steady. Sent by those who fear what we are becoming. The door burst open, and 3 armored figures slipped inside, their blades gleaming in the faint light. Their faces were covered, but their intent was clear. Ethan stood quickly, his heart pounding. The leader pointed his blade straight at him. The human dies tonight. Zara snarled, stepping between them and Ethan. You will not touch him, she growled, her voice deep and dangerous. Her claws gleamed, her tail lashed like a whip. The assassins hesitated, but then attacked together. The chamber filled with the clash of steel and the hiss of claws. Zara moved like fire, every strike fast, every counter precise. But 3 against 1 was not easy. Her tail knocked one to the ground, but another's blade cut across her shoulder. Ethan felt the pain flash through him as if it were his own. He gasped, stumbling, clutching his arm even though he was unhurt. The bond. He could feel everything she felt. One assassin broke past her and charged at Ethan. For a moment, terror froze him. But then the fire in his blood roared again. He moved without thinking, snatching up a broken piece of stone from the floor. The assassin's blade came down. Ethan swung the stone with all his strength. It cracked against the alien's helmet, sending him reeling. Ethan's breath caught. He shouldn't have been able to hit that hard, but the bond guided his strike. Zara finished the other 2 with a furious burst of speed, her claws dripping with blood. The chamber went silent except for their ragged breathing. Ethan dropped the stone, his hands shaking. I fought him, he whispered in disbelief. Zara turned to him, her chest heaving, golden eyes blazing. You did more than fight, she said softly, you awakened. Ethan looked at her, confusion and fear battling inside him. Awakened? What does that mean? Zara stepped closer, her tail curling gently around his wrist. The bond is more than law, more than tradition, she explained. It is ancient. Our ancestors believed it was a gift from the stars, a way for 2 souls to share strength, to become greater than either alone. Ethan's breath caught. Greater than alone. Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. Do you see now? Together, we are not weak. Together, we are dangerous. For a moment, they just stood there, their breaths mixing in the dim glow of the chamber. Ethan could feel her heartbeat through the bond, strong and steady, and he realized something terrifying and thrilling at once. He was no longer just surviving, he was changing. But outside, voices echoed through the halls, more footsteps approaching. The assassins had failed, but others would come. Zara's eyes hardened. They will never stop, she said, not until the bond is broken, or until we prove to the galaxy that it cannot be broken. Ethan clenched his fists, his fear slowly turning into determination. For the first time, he understood. This wasn't just her fight anymore. It was his too. And the revelation was clear. The bond was not a curse. It was their only weapon. The bodies of the assassins lay still on the cold stone floor. Ethan stood trembling, the broken piece of stone still slipping from his fingers. Zara's golden eyes burned in the dim light, her chest rising and falling as she caught her breath. The air in the chamber smelled of iron and smoke, heavy with the taste of blood. They will send more, Zara said finally, her voice low and certain. They will not stop until one of us is dead. Ethan swallowed hard, fear knotting in his chest. Then what do we do? Her tail curled protectively around him, her jaw tight. We run. Before Ethan could reply, shouts echoed outside the chamber, heavy footsteps rushing closer. The council guards, they had been alerted. Zara grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a hidden passage carved into the rock. Move, she ordered, her voice sharp. Ethan stumbled after her, his heart pounding. The narrow tunnel was dark, the walls damp and rough. Behind them, the sound of armored boots grew louder. They burst out into the night, the cold air hitting Ethan's face like a slap. The city spread out below them, lights glowing faintly in the darkness. Above, the twin moons hung heavy, their silver light bathing the rooftops. Zara didn't stop. She pulled Ethan along the edge of the cliff path, her movements swift and sure, even in the darkness. Ethan struggled to keep up, his lungs burning. Where are we going? He gasped. Away from here, she replied, her eyes scanning the shadows. Into the wilds, where their laws cannot reach us. They ran through narrow streets, slipping past shuttered doors and darkened windows. Ethan could feel the bond pulsing inside him, keeping him on his feet even when exhaustion threatened to drag him down. Every time he stumbled, he felt Zara's strength steady him. Every time she faltered, his determination pushed her forward. Together, they kept running. But the city was not quiet. Horns sounded in the distance, deep and hollow, carrying across the night. The hunters, Zara hissed, her tail lashing in anger. They know we've escaped. Ethan's chest tightened. How many? Enough to kill us 10 times over, she answered grimly. They reached the outer gates, guarded by 2 massive alien soldiers. The warriors raised their weapons, blocking the path. Zara, one barked, by order of the council, surrender the human. Ethan froze, fear locking his legs. But Zara stepped forward, her voice sharp as steel. You'll have to kill me first. The guards hesitated, uncertain. For a moment, Ethan thought they might let them pass. But then one lunged, swinging his heavy blade. Zara met him head-on, claws flashing in the moonlight. The clash rang through the night as sparks flew. The second guard charged at Ethan. Ethan's heart stopped. He had no weapon, no training. But the bond pulsed again, fire rushing through his veins. He ducked instinctively, the blade slicing over his head. His hands found a loose stone by the gate, and he hurled it with surprising force. It struck the guard's temple, staggering him. Zara finished the first with a brutal strike, then turned and dropped the second with a snap of her tail. The gates creaked as she shoved them open. Go, she ordered. Ethan sprinted through, his legs carrying him faster than he thought possible. The wild land stretched out beyond the city, endless forests of black trees and glowing rivers under the twin moons. Zara followed close behind, slamming the gate shut behind them. But already, the sound of pursuit echoed from the city. They ran into the forest, the air colder, the shadows deeper. Strange cries rose from the trees, alien creatures watching them from the dark. Ethan shivered, but Zara kept moving, her claws cutting through low branches. Finally, they reached a clearing near the river, the water glowing faintly blue under the moonlight. Zara stopped, her chest heaving. We rest here, she said, her voice steady but tired. Ethan collapsed onto the grass, gasping for air. His whole body ached, but the bond kept him from collapsing completely. Zara knelt beside him, her tail brushing lightly against his arm. You held your ground, she said quietly, her golden eyes softening for the first time. Ethan gave a weak laugh. I threw a rock, he muttered. But she shook her head. You fought when most would have fled. That is more than enough. For a moment, silence fell between them, broken only by the rush of the glowing river. Ethan turned his head to look at her. Why are you doing this? He asked softly. You could have left me to die in the market. Why risk everything for me? Zara's eyes glimmered in the moonlight, her voice low. Because the bond chose us both, she said. And because I will not let them decide our fate. Ethan felt her words sink deep into him. He was no longer just a human lost in an alien world. He was part of something larger, something dangerous. And as much as it terrified him, a strange part of him no longer wanted to run. Zara stood, scanning the shadows around the clearing. They will come for us again, she warned, her claws flexing. But we will be ready. Ethan sat up slowly, his chest still burning but his resolve hardening. For the first time, he didn't feel like prey anymore. He felt like a fighter, because of her, and because of the bond. The escape was only the beginning, and the true battle was still ahead. The night in the wilds felt endless. The glowing river flowed beside them, casting strange blue light across the clearing. Ethan sat with his back against a rock, his body aching, his mind heavy. Zara stood near the edge of the trees, her golden eyes scanning the darkness for movement, her tail swaying slowly like a blade ready to strike. They had survived the assassins, the guards, and the council's wrath. But Ethan knew deep inside, this was not the end. The bond had made them stronger, yes, but it had also painted a target on their backs. And now, the choice of their future loomed closer than ever. At dawn, the forest stirred with the cries of alien birds. Zara turned to him, her expression serious. They will come for us again, but this time not in shadows, she said. The council will demand judgment before the eyes of all. Ethan's stomach tightened. And what will they demand? Her tail curled tightly. They will give you a choice, human, she said quietly, death or me. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Death or you? She nodded slowly, her golden eyes unreadable. If you accept the bond fully, they cannot kill you. If you reject it, they will take my life to sever it. And yours soon after. Silence fell heavy. Ethan felt trapped, crushed between worlds he didn't belong to. He hadn't asked for this, hadn't planned for it. Yet every moment with Zara, every danger they had faced together, had pulled him deeper into her world. And deeper into something he didn't want to admit even to himself. By midday, the hunters came. Dozens of armored warriors surrounded the clearing, their spears gleaming in the sunlight. At their center stood the silver-marked elder, his cold eyes fixed on Ethan. Enough running, the elder declared, his voice echoing across the river. The council demands judgment. Now. Zara stepped in front of Ethan, claws raised. You will not touch him, she snarled. But the elder only sneered. Warrior, this is not your decision, it is his. Ethan's chest tightened, his mind racing. He had never felt more human, more small, standing against an army that wanted him dead. Yet the bond pulsed in his blood, steady, alive. When he looked at Zara, he saw not just a warrior but the only reason he was still breathing. The only one who had stood for him when all others wanted him gone. The elder raised his voice for all to hear. Human Ethan, he called, the law is clear, choose now. Reject the bond, and your life will end with hers. Accept the bond, and you will live, but as one of us, never human again. The crowd roared with anticipation, their voices harsh and unforgiving. Zara turned to Ethan, her face fierce but her eyes trembling with something softer. You don't have to, she whispered, almost pleading. Say no, and this ends, even if it ends in death. Ethan stared at her, his heart pounding. Memories of the market, of the trial, of the fight in the chamber flashed through his mind. Every moment of fear, every drop of blood, and every time she had stood between him and death. The bond thrummed inside him, whispering a truth he could no longer deny. He stepped forward, away from her, facing the elder and the crowd. His voice shook at first, but then grew steady. I didn't come here looking for this. I didn't want this bond, didn't even understand it. The aliens jeered, some laughing, some snarling, but Ethan raised his voice louder. And yet, it chose me, and because of it, I stand here alive. Because of her, I stand here at all. He turned to Zara, his voice soft but clear. I accept it. The crowd erupted, some in outrage, some in shock. The elder's eyes narrowed dangerously. You would bind yourself to her? Forsake your own kind. Ethan's chest tightened, but his answer came without hesitation. I would rather stand with her than die without her. The bond flared in that instant. Ethan felt it burn through his veins, stronger than ever. Zara gasped, her body trembling as the power surged between them. The golden glow in her eyes spread across her scales. And for a moment, they both stood as if wrapped in light. The elder staggered back, his face pale. The bond is complete, he hissed. It cannot be undone. The warriors lowered their weapons in awe and fear. Zara stepped to Ethan's side, her tail curling firmly around his waist. Her voice was steady, filled with pride. From this day, he is mine, and I am his. Judge us if you dare, but you cannot break what fate has written. The council had no choice. They could not kill what the bond had already sealed. And though hatred still burned in their eyes, they turned and left in silence. Ethan let out a shaky breath, his legs nearly giving way. Zara caught him, holding him upright, her claws surprisingly gentle. You chose, she whispered, her voice trembling as if the words carried more weight than any battle. Ethan met her golden eyes, his own filled with exhaustion but also something new. I didn't just choose the bond, he said softly. I chose you. For the first time, Zara's fierce mask cracked. A faint smile touched her lips, small but real. And as the two stood together in the fading light, Ethan knew his life was no longer his own. It was theirs, bound forever by accident, by fate, by choice. And in that moment, he realized. It was not a curse, but the beginning of a world he had never imagined.